Hello and welcome back to Childcare Confidential. I'm Jessica Hampton and this is the fabulous Katie Denk.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Today we are going to be diving into a confidentially submitted story
Ooh.
that leads us to a topic that could make or break your childcare center. So, those in leadership and those owners, listen up and let's get started.
So, this childcare owner submitted a story hoping that others would hear it and it inspire them. And I guess that's just kind of what we're all about here at Childcare Confidential, anyways. We're sharing experiences to walk through with them and others in hopes that we can laugh, cry, and maybe even cheer a little bit together.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. All right. Well, let's dive in and see what this owner submitted.
Womp womp. Okay, so I have recently gone through a situation that I would like to share confidentially because I believe it may help others. We have all heard about having the right people in the right seats. I've heard this for years at childcare conferences and thought I needed to make a change. I had other owners who I had confided in who told me I needed to make the change, but I just didn't listen. The person I had put in charge was with me forever, and we had grown to have a great relationship. Did I really want to shake up my whole school just to change the person in leadership? It seemed like too big of a task, but over and over I was finding bigger and bigger mistakes, and I knew the schools were suffering because I didn't want to be inconvenienced with making the right call. I just wanted the person I had to get better, be more positive, lead, not manage, on and on. Their heart just wasn't in it anymore. I had wanted to continue to grow and expand our program, but every time I stepped out of the schools to focus on growth, my leadership team needed me to come right back to the schools to help with even the smallest task. I would even go in just to drive the buses regularly. With all of that, I was realizing more and more that if I didn't make a change, I was never going to get out of my schools so that I could actually work on growth and on my business. It's never an easy decision, and I have to say I made it probably 6 years too late. I really wanted to mold my director into someone they were not. They were not a positive, bubbly person. That just didn't come naturally to them, and it was very important to me to have a positive and thriving environment. Turns out we had different core values and priorities on the overall vision. By waiting so long, because I was trying to make it work, not only hurt the director who felt like they were not succeeding, and then the owner themselves, who was always frustrated with things not getting done, staff being frustrated, and budgets just not working. In the end, it was never easy to let someone go after being with you for so long. Absolutely not. There were tears, anger, and frustration. There were things said on social media. There were texts. There were hiring of some of our previous employees to go to the new school with her. But in the end, it wasn't easy, but it was definitely necessary. Since the transition, our schools are in a more positive place, and the director I was telling you about has moved on to a school that she appears to be absolutely thriving at. Transition is hard, but it can be good. Don't wait like I did if you know you have to make a change. You just hurt yourself, your team, and your school when you wait. Oof.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Oh, yeah. So I'm sure we've all heard right people, right seats. Like if you're in leadership, you know that you need to have the right person leading your schools. Um, so let's kind of talk about, I guess, how or I guess why right people, right seats matters. Let's start there with unpacking some of this. What
Well,
is
I
it?
mean,
Why does it matter?
let's get real. Childcare is all about people. The right team can create a nurturing, safe, and absolutely exceptional learning environment. But what happens when you have the wrong person leading your charge?
Oof, man, I think that's huge. Leadership, in my opinion, sets the tone for your environment, for your school, for everything else. If your leadership's not following their own policies that are set, you're in trouble. Like, I think that, that's your backbone of your program. So that's really important. You have to have strong leadership, I think, in your school. I know we have went
Yeah.
through some similar stories with having to replace staff or hire somebody in a different position or letting go of somebody that we didn't fit for us at that time. And that is difficult, especially when it's a leader.
It's a little bit heartbreaking.
It is. It
And
is.
devastating all at the same
I've
time. I
cried
agree.
over some employees before. I've had the things on social media. I've been blasted on social media from stuff from past employees, and that people don't realize that there's somebody behind that computer screen, and that really hurts. And we want to avoid that a lot because we are people oriented usually in childcare. We don't really typically like to butt heads with people.
Yeah.
um,
No.
and so it's difficult because your leadership is your backbone of your program. What does it mean, right seat? I would say that that's like matching strengths of your program and passions with the right roles. So, for example, I think we were talking about an example earlier, Katie, about, you may have an amazing preschool teacher and they may be just top notch. They run their classroom so organized and it's just functioning. Because if we're being honest, our teachers are leaders too, because they're leading classrooms. We need to think about all of these skills that we're developing in people. But they're doing an amazing job. And then you put them in a role as an administrator or a director and they fall apart. Why? It wasn't the right seat for them. Their seat was in the classroom where they are doing amazing. And that is not a less than position than anything else. I think people think they want to climb up that ladder so much that we often forget that maybe that's not where our right fit is. One of the other things that I would just say is just making sure that leaders have not just experience, but they have the right mindset. I know it is really hard to separate personal and work, and Katie and I have done amazing at this, but we are friends as well as teammates, in the field. But it's hard sometimes to separate the two. Feelings can get hurt, and you just need to make sure that your leadership person has a steady mind about themselves so that they can lead others.
But I think too that sometimes your best teacher just isn't meant to be a director, and that's
Yeah.
completely a-okay. But promoting someone just because they're super great at what they're currently doing doesn't mean that they're actually going to thrive in that leadership role, kind of what you were explaining. I think every single time, like you said, you want to grow, you want to climb, you want to get to the very tippity top, but what does that actually mean for you? What type of
Mm,
impact are you actively trying to do within the business in which you work? I think that
yeah.
people very rarely take a deep dive to really look at what that means to them. They just want to be the very best, heading right and wrong, all the thing. You can't.
Yeah, I agree completely. We all want to strive to do better, of course, but that doesn't mean that we have to strive for a different role. We can do better where we're seated. If I'm cleaning that day, I can mop that floor like no other. I can make sure it is spotless. I will do my very best.
Absolutely.
And if I'm in the classroom that day, I can get up and dance and do some freeze dance and play games and teach like no other because that's where I am seated right then. And so I'm going to do my very best there. And I think too often we forget and we try to strive for things that maybe we shouldn't. Um, but every time I think of right person, right seat, that kind of comes to mind to me.
Yeah.
Just making sure that just because you're a preschool teacher does not mean that you should be an administrator, and vice versa. Let's
Yes.
not forget, not
100%.
all administrators are teachers.
Yes.
There are different roles for a reason.
Yes.
Um,
So when we're talking about putting the right people in the right seats, let's talk about some of the impacts of the right and wrong leadership and how you can kind of distinguish between the two. So when you have the right people in leadership, you're more keen to have your team feeling supported and motivated and eager to
mhm.
come into work every day. Your staff
Absolutely.
turnover starts dropping drastically. Your
Mm-hmm.
communication flows smoothly, which is what Jess and I literally have conversations about all the time. I know if I'm in a super funk, I'm picking up the phone. I'm probably going to text first to make sure we're not doing anything super crazy, but I'll be like, "You got 5 for me?" And she's like, "Absolutely." That is how you have seamless communication. It's when your
Yep.
people know that you are needing them, you take a minute to help them so that they can help others. I think that's a super
Absolutely.
important piece. Yes.
Yeah,
And
problems
then
get solved quickly when that happens and calmly. It seems like when you're communicating well, things just kind of flow.
yes, much
What
much
about
more seamless.
right? It helps definitely. And the staff turnover for me when we had to go through a situation like this, kind of similar to in the story, I really wanted a positive environment and I was kind of coming in and it didn't really matter who was up there, but the leadership team, you could kind of see up at front as you came in, they weren't really saying hello or good morning or, hey, how's it going? And so every time when I came in, I just kind of felt like no hi, no hey. And
You're
then I was like,
sad.
well, maybe this is happening to other people. So I started watching, and it was. I was
Mm.
like, ooh, I don't like this. I need to change it, And that's just one of the things that seeing maybe not having the right person up front. You need somebody that's entertaining and bringing people in. And I want to be greeted by the hotel person that's like, hey, how'd you sleep? Did you have a good night? Not like, hey, ready to check out.
You don't want that?
No, and we're dealing with families and kids, so it was important to me to have positivity.
Yeah.
And when you see those red flags, it's important to be like, okay, maybe this isn't the right fit because she held on for way too long. I know I held on for way too long. I'm sure a lot
Yeah.
of people have felt like that. What
So when you
about
say red flags, what does that look
red
like?
flags? My red flags? Well, the negativity at the front door, the desk, like people not being positive. A red flag could be just
Staff feeling frustrated, micromanaged. That's the biggest pet peeve that I've noticed, like within our own staff. Our staff do a super great job. I know that they're on it. They know what they should be doing. If I were to walk in there and be like, "Hey, have you done X, Y, and Z?" They'd be like, that's not till 9:15, and you're trying to rush me." Like they've got it going on, but I can't imagine walking in and micromanaging and sitting over somebody's shoulder constantly trying to tell them
yeah.
what they shouldn't be doing. That's so unfair. And
Yeah,
of course it's going to lead
absolutely.
to like negativity. Of course.
Yeah, the morale's going to tank, the communication's going to start breaking down because if you're already seeing somebody might be the wrong fit, as a leader, I know myself, I start to back off a little bit. I stop, doing as much because I'm like, let's just let me watch. Let me see what's going on so I can try to help them. And you see those red flags, you see the warnings, the things like that, and I think it breaks down our communication because I may not say as much.
Yeah.
Um, and so, just as a leader, I would challenge you just to really face those decisions head on. I have not done great at that. I will highly admit that. It's a challenge for me every day. But when I did start working on my business, which is what this owner is talking about, it's made a big difference in my business. Morale has went up. They're more positive. They don't have to do some of the behind the scenes tasks because now there's somebody there that can help. Things like that. So, yeah.
I think that's a super good call out too. I think a lot of people think that once you already signed up for maybe the person who you thought was going to be fantastic, they end up not being everything that they thought
Yeah.
they were going to be. You're just disheartened and you feel like you're stuck. You don't have to be
Mm-hmm.
stuck. And if you're the person that's not being recognized and maybe you're being micromanaged from like the adverse perspective, I can tell you
Yes.
coming from a corporate background into some place that's very homey and like people first and education based, like it doesn't have to be that way. There are so many opportunities for you to
Absolutely.
find someone who values, appreciates, and loves you. You don't have to stay stuck or
Yeah.
stagnant.
And I really like what this owner had put in there to kind of give like warning to all people was, you know, it was hurting not just her, but it was hurting her program, it was hurting her families, it was hurting her kids by like not making that call. And it was hurting her director because you could see the frustration through that letter on both sides. Like it wasn't necessarily one-sided. You could see the frustration on both sides. And so everybody was suffering when if you just face it head on, everybody suffers a lot less faster. Like, you know, she
You're not
waited way
incorrect.
too
Just rip
long.
the Band-Aid
And
off, you mean? Just rip
yeah,
the
just rip it off. Nobody likes it. Nobody's going to enjoy that.
right.
But just get it over with if you know that's the right call and you're prepared to do it
Oh,
because
Jess
it
is all
could
about
mean
preparation.
I
If
like
you're not prepared,
preparation.
don't you try.
Yeah, you need to make sure you're ready to fill that role too if you need to. So, but we all know, you guys know the story with Katie and I and how Katie came about and started working in our schools. And a great leader can really transform your schools. And I would say that Katie has done that with our schools.
Oh,
She's done really good. She's the right fit for us. And, you know, what attracted to me to Katie, even as we were starting as friends in the field, was her positivity, you know, and it was like, okay, she's in this. She wants to go the whole way. Early childhood, that's her thing. Like, and that stood out to me. It wasn't like I had to question if you should be in this field or not. You knew this was your dream and your passion, and you were
yeah.
confident in that. And so, like, that stood out to me. And she's done a great job transforming our school. Um,
You're making me blush, Jess. Goodness.
you know, good. You should be celebrated.
Oh.
Everybody should be celebrated. So, okay.
Okay. Well, enough,
Moving on.
enough about the cutesies and how great I feel right now
Yeah.
in my blushy blush.
Yeah.
But in terms of this poor owner who reached out, I'm so grateful that she did submit a story because it always gives us a little bit more of wiggle room to be able to discuss. Some people are
Yeah.
super nervous to discuss what's really happening. And for this person to step forward and actually give some insight in what they're currently dealing with, we commend you. We love it. And it definitely gives us the opportunity to have more conversations. But I would like to talk now about how you find the right people for the right seats. Not everyone can just meet
Ooh.
besties at
No.
nice lunch and
You
it
can't
just
have what we
happens.
have. Actually, you can.
Ooh.
You just got to find the right person.
Yes, 100%. But all right, I swear by it. Jess and I have had this conversation bajillions of times. If you're honest about your strengths and your weaknesses, and you can just be 100% blanket statement, open, wide honest, I know for a fact that I am not the cutesy. Let me make a spreadsheet, multicolor. Let me put the most beautiful graphics on one of our events. That is not my strong suit. That is my main man Jess's strong suit. She takes
I
care of that.
mean, I love that you said that because I was totally going to say that too. When Katie first started with me, she made these really cute newsletters that had like the logo ink stamp at the bottom, and you could only use one template. And I went,
thought it was normal.
honey, have you ever heard of Canva? We could do some stuff with this. And then she got in Canva and started designing stuff. And I was like, maybe you should stick to getting the pictures. And I'll do the designing.
Yeah.
But Katie has come leaps and bounds in her designing marketing stuff and is doing fabulous now. But that was one of the things at first that it was like, we knew that I was better at designing stuff and Katie was better at, you know, getting things organized, what needed posted next, what picture it needed to go with, making sure things were flowing. And so we just switched it up.
I'm super grateful for that too, because it is just not. It's not. I'm better for sure, but it's not my strong suit at all. But
I love though, we're such an open book that like you just share the story. I'm like, yeah, I was gonna share it too.
The other piece that I feel like plays super in line with just being open and honest about your weaknesses and your strengths is the fact that every person has a different personality. And if you don't know your team and the way that they like to be coached, managed, not
Yeah,
even reprimanded, but commended. Like, you have to know your individual people and how they prefer to be acknowledged about the good that they do,
absolutely.
or being told about how maybe we need to do things differently. If you don't know that, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle real bad.
Yeah,
Jess
it's super
knows that I
important.
don't like that. I prefer you write me an email. It could be black and white. I can read between the lines. I know that it's not personal. It's just business. Now, if she
Yeah.
called me to rip me apart, I'm in some big trouble because she doesn't do that very often. So I would probably run. But that's because she
I'd
knows.
FaceTime. I'd be like, I see you.
Okay. I love that.
No, 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 none of that. But no, you do have to know how people function. I mean, we all have, you've seen books about the five love languages and things like that for work as well. We all have different ways we take feedback, negative and positive. One of my quirks in life, not just in early childhood, is if I get really, really mad at somebody close to me and we start to argue, because I'm not much of an arguer when it's stupid stuff like that. But when we start to argue, I laugh. People yell, I laugh. And I cannot help it. It drove my husband mad because he would be
why.
so mad at first. You're trying to figure out life as a married couple. He'd be so mad and he'd start yelling. And I would just bust out hysterically laughing. And then I'd say something and I'd laugh some more. And he's like, finally, we realized, like, I really can't help it. So maybe we could just not argue. So I don't do arguing well. You have to come at me with a calm tone or I'm just going to laugh. But it's knowing those quirks about who you work with that's important, I think.
I feel like that's a super fair, and I'm super glad that you said that out loud, because now I'm going to put it in my back pocket to know if you ever start laughing, I should run farther.
I thought you already knew that. That's funny. Yeah.
You have never yelled at me, so I feel like maybe we're good then.
Count yourself as blessed.
Okay.
It only happens to Jaren once in a while.
All right, let's stay away from Jaren. We're going to
But going back to what this owner submitted, I think that what she said about trying to mold the person into what she wanted them to be was really key there. You have to give like professional development support and help train people into what you need, but you can't change their personality. And, you can coach, but if they're in the wrong fit because your personalities might not be fitting, you have to look at that too, because it's just going to have a lot of conflict in the end. And it is, you can give them all the professional development and coaching in the end. They're still going to have the same personality and some traits that you're not going to like. So you have to decide, can you get over it or not? But it's important to keep that in mind as well. Have those open conversations with your goals and your strengths. Challenge them, but they're just as frustrated as you are if you're waiting too long.
That's a very key piece that I don't think a lot of people really take time to read into and look into. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to get past it and move forward through it, then there really is there's no hope. Because what we were just discussing, how you find the right people for the right seats, you can be willing to move them to maybe a different position. Yeah. Maybe we need to take a step back. Just like you said, not every teacher is meant to be a director, but not every director is meant to be in a classroom. Sometimes it is
several. Yeah, I've had several people in leadership that have either chosen they needed to take a step back or chosen that they needed to take a different position, or at the time in their life, it just wasn't the right fit. And that happens too, and it's okay. But just struggling constantly is not the answer either.
No, that's burnt out. That's how you get burnt out.
Good point. Good point. So definitely don't be afraid to make those changes if you need to. We are, I believe, going to go ahead and wrap up, because we just wanted to get in here and chat about some of that right people, right seats. But we still do want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories. It kind of opens up the conversation. And comment below. Let us know what you think of this story. And if you have some advice for maybe this owner who is going through this with her director, or maybe it hits home with you, so you can add your own comments as well. So we hope that you stick with us and keep liking and subscribing. We love you all. We appreciate you. That's all
Thank
I
you.
got, Katie. Bye. Have a great week.